Hey, everybody. I am Misty Buck, president of Miss Inc. And typically, you all come here every week for Marketing Monday. But today, I have a very special guest. We're going to put a little bit of a different spin on the show and talk about a topic that's very near and dear to my heart and my experience in life, and also my friend here's experience in life. And we're going to talk about mental health. So we're going to call it, I don't know if we're calling it Mental Health Monday or Mental Health with Misty. Either way, it doesn't matter. That's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So with that, I'm going to introduce my guest, Chris Colston. He is the CEO and founder of Second Chance Credit. And really, he's done an incredible job for me and for my family and helping us with our credit needs. But beyond that, we have a common thread.
Yes.
And one of we've had many common threads, actually.
We
have many common threads. But one of those common threads is our journey with mental health and how that has affected our professional lives, our personal lives too,
Yes.
but our professional as well. And we seem to be on a similar track of helping people through that in our own way. So with that, I'm going to welcome Chris to the show. And we're just going to go back and forth and have a conversation today. If you guys have any questions, feel free to send them over or any comments. So with that, Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey with mental health?
Man, I'll tell you this, Misty. For me, I didn't know what it was called. I preparing for today, I was thinking, I'm like, all of us have mental health issues, right? Because we come to Earth, we come to the world, and we have to deal with so many things. And it's crazy because we're dealing with these things, we're dealing with these feelings, but we don't know what they are.
Right.
We don't know where to go to ask what's going on. Like, I remember coming from Nicaragua over here in 1989, and it was very traumatic for me because I've always been a very sociable kid, always like friends, wanted to help out, play, and we get put outside in portables.
Mm-hmm.
So I came over here in fourth grade. So fourth and fifth grade, I was in a portable.
Right.
Because we were the Esau kid.
Oh, so you got put in that section of the school.
We were like leprosy.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Right.
So the big school, we couldn't go in there. We could only go for breakfast or lunch.
Right.
And when we went there, we got called names.
Wow.
So it was like, what's going on here? So your morale, your self-esteem, everything just goes downhill.
Right.
So you're feeling anger, you're feeling depressed, right? Like, but we don't know what that is at that time.
Correct.
You're getting bullied.
Yeah.
So what happens afterwards? Then you become the bully.
That is true, because eventually you have to defend yourself, and that's how you learn to defend yourself in a way, right? At least for me.
I wouldn't say defend yourself, Misty. I would say yes, defending yourself, but also you're so angry at the world.
Yeah.
You have to have an exhaust.
Right.
And we don't know what the exhaust is. So let's go fight.
Right.
Let's do all these crazy things. And you're so angry that you're not even doing well in school anymore.
Right.
Because you're like, why? What happened? The teachers are going through their days, their curriculum. Your parents are working. Like my parents were working 2 jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Like we saw my mom and my dad in the morning. We didn't see them until we came back at night.
Wow.
Like my mom put so much fear in us, like saying, when you got back from school, you cannot go outside because then they will know that you're by yourself. Someone could come and take you away.
So you had this isolation in school, and then you come home and you have to isolate more because of the fear that something bad was going to happen to you.
Something bad was going to happen.
Wow.
Or if we were going to be taken away because we had no parent supervision.
Wow.
So it was so crazy. And then you carry that with you, Misty, because now you become a young adult. Now you go to middle school, high school. Then also you have problems with, I'll say, friends, relationships, parents, and you don't know where to go.
Right.
To talk about this. So we never knew what, people would think about mental health. It's like, oh man, Misty's crazy.
That's what it was back then.
Chris is crazy.
That's what it was.
But why,
you were
Misty?
crazy. Right.
But why?
Right. I don't have that answer. I wish I knew, but that's certainly how I felt. Yeah.
And then you struggle. And once I became an adult, right, get into a serious relationship, and you don't know how to cope with things.
Right, because you never how to unlearned those things, right? That's what you're saying. Like you just continue to carry those childhood things that you had learned.
So where are the mentors? Mom, Dad, where are you?
Right.
Grandma, Grandpa, where are you? Tio, Tia, where are you?
Right.
So it's a domino effect.
Yeah.
Of total screwed ups.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we get this fixed? So I'm so glad that you're dealing with this. You made something happen, and you want to go and help out more. And there's so many professionals now out there willing to help out individuals like you and I going through this.
Right.
And then the mental health, Misty, also goes into finances.
Yeah, that's a big trigger point for people suffering with mental health. Like that can be, I mean, how many stories tragically have we read about people who were going to lose everything and so they decide to take their life?
Misty, imagine if you're in a storm. How can you navigate through that storm if everything is black?
Mm-hmm.
How can you navigate
That's a
through
great
it?
analogy. Yeah.
How can you navigate? You can't see anything.
It's true, you can. And people wonder, if you've never experienced this before, people have no idea what it feels like. They don't understand what you just described. And I think that's a really good, clear way of describing that.
Because there's no hope.
There's no hope.
Because you can't see a light.
You
Not even a star.
Right.
Far away.
Right.
You can't see
right.
it. Because either it's so dark you can't see it, or your mind is so blocked.
Right.
That you can't see it. Like, you know, you're one of my dear friends, and we spoke about this. Like me going through my divorce. It was so tough going through that.
Yeah.
You know, having a business, trying to have the business stay afloat,
mm-hmm.
having other families depend on me. Not just my immediate family, not just my little kids and my ex-wife, families, people that work for me.
Right.
Right?
Right. Because you have employees to consider as well. They rely on you.
They rely on me because I'm the one bringing in the clientele. But if I'm not in a good mental state, Misty, how can I speak well to my clients?
Right.
How can I listen to their problems and provide a solution?
Yep.
If I'm all blurry.
Right.
Like, I was literally, Misty, I will say, probably a month away, probably from closing my business.
We got that close.
We got that close.
Wow.
Because I just started.
Like shutting down.
I started going after the business. So that's when my therapist told, I spoke to my therapist about this. And he goes, you know, that's very natural for someone to do.
Right.
Because you lost something so dear to you, right? Your family, you're a family man, Chris. You lost something so dear. You have to now go attack something very dear as well.
That's a big aha.
Yeah. You have to go and attack it.
Yeah.
Because you can't just have something really dear and you lose and then be like, oh yeah, this is over here is good. No, you're going to go and attack it, backlash it. And what did I do? Like, I didn't care anymore. I didn't dress well. I didn't speak well, but I didn't have good energy.
Well, what? You're probably feeling tired, beat up, exhausted, stuck.
So many things going at it at the same time.
Right.
And if I didn't have my therapist at that time, I don't know, Misty. I don't know.
So what made you I'm so interested in this because we've talked about this. The therapist, a lot of people, there's still very much this stigma around going around and getting help and not dealing with it on your own, right? A lot of us are taught to just suck it up and deal with it on your own. A lot of us are also have this mindset of, well, my problems really aren't that bad. Outside looking in, you know, are they really bad enough for me to deserve to talk to somebody? So we do a lot of judgment there, right? And there's a lot of shame involved, and it's hard to get vulnerable and go get help. So that's one of the messages that I wanted to address today. So how were you able to say, you know what, like enough is enough? I need help. And even though I've been stuffing this down and dealing with my own for so many years, I'm going to go ahead and take this step. What was that journey like for you?
For me, Misty, and I do this in everything that I do.
Uh-huh.
I cannot continue to do the same thing expecting a different answer. Once I exhaust all my abilities, personal abilities, right, without reaching out, I'm like, Chris can do no more. Like, this is it. This is ceiling.
Right.
I go and get help. And you cannot go and get help when everything's already burning.
Right.
You can't. You gotta go and get help before it starts burning. But the thing is, Misty, and this is the biggest fear of everyone, the mirror.
Yeah.
The mirror.
Yep.
When you look at a mirror, and a mirror could break in front of a pretty face. People think the mirror breaks just because it's an ugly face. Nope. Mirror could break in front of a pretty face.
Yeah.
Because of the things that we're hiding.
Right.
So once I knew that I could not move forward, create more momentum for Chris to get better, I said, I need to go and get help. And I reached out to a dear friend of mine that he's been going to therapy for a long time, that I love dear to my heart. And I said, who's your therapist?
Mm-hmm.
And I went and got help.
Wow.
And everything was out of my pocket. So it actually, it wasn't through my insurance it was in my pocket that I had to pay. I had to go once a week, and it was expensive. But I knew I had to get better. When the pain is large enough, you will do something about it, Misty.
Yeah, and you want to do the point is to do something productive and healthy instead of going in the opposite direction and setting your life on fire, or taking some of these actions that are sometimes irreversible, because there's, what do they say, there's there's no permanent solutions to temporary problems or something like that, right? So like you have to be really, I didn't word that correctly, but there, you just have to be really aware of that. So I'm so glad that you were, and that you went and got that help, and that we weren't reading about you in the newspaper because, this guy who has this incredible business,
almost set it up on fire.
Almost, yeah.
Literally, I told him, I was telling all my staff, I'm like, hey, start searching for a new job.
Wow.
So it was that bad.
Wow.
My business coach that Will Dukes, he came and he was like, this is the way Chris is acting?
Right.
Like, holy smokes. Like, we are in trouble. But, but it's also like, you have these attorneys, in the family law, you have these attorneys coming at you. You have your ex coming at you. You have so many things coming at you within a short amount of period of time. And what are you going to do?
Right.
What are you going to do? So it's very difficult to get around it. And now, Misty, I still continue to go to therapy. I still continue to talk, because there's so many things that are still inside of me that I don't know why I react that way.
Right.
Now getting to know myself a bit better, I'm like, okay, now I know where that trigger comes from. Now I know where this comes from. Now I'm more empathetic and sometimes sympathetic, about things, about clients, because we like to judge on things because we want to be like the ultimate judge. So we want to be the supreme, the hero supreme.
It's an ego thing. Yeah.
There's good egos and bad egos.
Yes, correct. But I think in that moment where you're wanting to be better than somebody,
because
an ego thing.
It was great. I read this quote. It says, no one that's better, no one that's higher, no one that's doing better than you will bring you down.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start shooting at someone, you start criticizing at someone, it's because that person is doing actually better than you, because then you are shooting them down.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah. But they're not shooting you down because they can't even see you.
Right.
Because you're not up to their par at that time. But I'm really interested in your story, Misty. Like, tell me more about. I know you and I had this conversation.
We have had this conversation. And I'm glad that we do have these conversations, by the way, as friends. And I think it's important. Like, I have friends that I'll text and they'll be like, oh, I'm going back to therapy, or, how are you doing with this? And it is becoming much more of a normal conversation than when I was younger. And like you, it was something you did not talk about. And I kind of have like a funny story around that part. But my story really quickly. So I know a lot of you out there, you know me for the marketing business and all that, but I also am a life coach, and I've chose to specialize in mental health with athletes. And the reason for that being is my personal journey. And when I grew up, I was like you, a youth athlete, played youth sports, and I grew up, but I was a very sensitive person. So I always laugh, Chris. I always tell people, I'm like, the kid that like watches the commercial and they just start crying because they just feel, or they're watching a movie and like no one else is crying except this kid, and you're like what about that just touched your heart that now you're bawling crying? I was that child.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, no, I
Something
was like
new. Okay.
super sensitive, super sensitive. I've always been really what I now know is empathic, right? This word didn't exist, in like the 80s and 90s, right? We didn't talk about these things. It just was like, oh, Misty, you're dramatic. Misty, you're a princess. Misty, or whatever. And around in like the sports world, it was very stop being weak, stop being a baby, stop being soft, stop being other words I won't use here, right? So it was like I heard a lot of that. So I felt, man, I'm not like the other kids. Why are these? And kids would pick on me, and I'm like, why? What is up with that? Like, what's wrong with me? Why do I have so many feelings? Why do I feel things so differently, so deeply? But I want the best for everybody, but not everybody wants the best for me. It was like really a conflicted way to live.
Yeah.
And our society at the time was very tough love, right?
Yes.
Very like, in this famous saying in my house, walk it off. I can go to my dad for anything and anything. I love him to death. I can talk to him about anything. But growing up, the solution was walk it off, right? And so
in school as well, like teachers,
everywhere. So it was like, oh, this. And I remember being a little kid, and I got hit in the head by a swing. You know, when you walk behind the swings when you're a kid, I got hit in the head by a swing. And so I go in the cafeteria to get ice for my head. And one of the teachers, who was like my favorite teacher, I remember hearing her say, oh, she's always crying. Don't worry about her. And I'm like, I just got hit in the head. But again, like reinforcing, like there's something wrong with this feeling and these crying. So, fast forward, I'm in high school, and, things are happening and my hormones are changing, and now the feelings are even bigger, and there's stuff happening in my house, and it was really tough. And I ended up becoming depressed, although we didn't know it was depression at the time. My parents had put me in therapy because of stuff going on that we were dealing with in the family, but it wasn't like enough, right? So I felt like I no longer recognized myself. I had no idea who I was. I was being mean. Like I would snap off on my friends for no reason, like just say things that were just really, really mean.
Hurt people.
Yeah, hurt people. Exactly. But that wasn't who I was, and I wasn't comfortable as that person either. But like what you just described, all I saw was darkness. Yeah. And so there was a point where I wanted to end my life, and I was very seriously in that mindset and thinking about my plan with that. And I share this very publicly, and sometimes it's not something that I share lightly, but I share it publicly because I don't want other people, if they feel this way, to be ashamed. You know what I mean? I'm a successful person, multiple businesses, author, this, that. You might look at me and say, oh, she has it all. But really, I've gone through very difficult times. And so luckily, my mom asked me one day randomly, and by the grace of God, I told her, I don't want to live anymore. I don't know what gave me the courage to say those words, but I did. And I got the right help. I got to go see a psychiatrist. So here's like the kind of funny part.
She listened to you, though.
She listened to me. Thank God.
Thank God. And she got something.
No,
and she said, I'm going to go help out.
They did not screw around with it. Like they were very supportive. Thank God. I always say that. That was a blessing. So a huge blessing in my life. So, and I thought, this is like the hardest thing I'm ever going to go through. And come to find out that life has a lot of hard points. So I had to learn how to deal with my emotions and manage them better, because it wasn't like I just didn't become a sensitive person. Now I'm not depressed anymore. No. I'm all of a sudden not empathic. That doesn't exist. Yeah. I had to learn how to manage my emotions better. But the funny part we were talking about with being crazy is I wouldn't even tell anybody I was in therapy, because I was like, oh my God, the kids are really going to think I'm crazy now, right?
They're going to pick on you even more.
They're going to pick on me even more. So I'm in high school, and I'm going to go to my first psychiatrist appointment, because obviously I need more help, right? I got on medication and the whole thing, but I could not really bear to tell anybody that now I needed not only therapy, but I need a psychiatrist too. Like I must be really cuckoo. So all this self-judgment. So my mom, the appointment was like in the middle of the day. So she was picking me up early from school. And I remember the teacher and my friends were like, why are you leaving school early? I was like, oh, my mom's taking me to lunch at the Cheesecake Factory. I couldn't tell them that I was going to psychiatry, right? So that's why I'm so big about telling these stories now. So when I progressed later in my life and I realized I also deal with anxiety, and there's a lot of things that I've had to work through. And when a few years into the marketing business, I thought, you know what, I want to help people. And I was also a cheerleading coach growing up, and coaching was like my favorite thing in the whole world. So, and so I decided to get into this. I'm like, I want to be the resource that I didn't have. And so that's why I wrote the book. And that's why I share my story with friends like you. And we're having these conversations.
You know, I have a lot of friends that says, man, I don't want to go to therapy because I'm fearful that I may need a psychiatrist, you know, to take medication. I was like, but what's wrong about taking medication?
Right.
And they're like, it's just because you're crazy to take medication. So I was like, okay, what about if you meet someone that's diabetic?
Mm-hmm.
That their body is missing insulin. Right? So what do? They take insulin, right? What about if your brain is just missing this certain type of dosage?
Right.
It's just missing. It doesn't mean that you're crazy. It's just missing it.
It's just like any other physical function, but we judge it so differently.
Correct. Because you hate things that you don't understand.
Right.
You hate things that you don't understand. Now, you as an adult, I look at you and I'm like, that's so awesome. But when we're little, we don't understand these things.
You don't understand. Yeah.
So now we make fun of it.
Right.
Because you're so little. But I bet you now you have a better relationship with your husband because you've gone through all these things.
Yes.
Right? So now you know, I'm a little sensitive. He knows you're a little sensitive. He knows how to speak to you and vice versa.
Right. We also have to learn how to check in with myself and be like, okay, so maybe I need to take 5 right now. I need to breathe. I need to look at this, practicing mindful meditation a lot to not let things like push my buttons as much. And like you were saying, know your triggers, like know what situations are going to possibly cause you to get angry, to get sad, to just make your emotions go wherever they're going to go, to make you start thinking down the wrong path. And you can catch yourself now, right? Before you go that way.
A lot of the times the things that we are angry about is not because that person made you angry.
Right.
You're fighting an old fight.
Of course.
So now that old fight, now I made you relive something, but it's not me that caused it. It's just I triggered you, but it was something in the past.
Right.
And you're like, oh my God, I remember when I was bullied like this. I remember when this.
Right.
So then you're taking it out of me because now it's like, oh, Chris is the new enemy or that person is the new enemy. And you just take it out. Like, you know, I was telling you earlier, we went to dinner with my wife and a couple of friends on Saturday.
Yeah.
We came back. It was like 12 o'clock. And then we just started having that conversation. We were up till 4 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Well, it rolled over to Sunday, 4 o'clock in the morning. And we were having a tough conversation.
Right.
You know, but it was about real stuff. But it was great because it was just communication. But it was a tough conversation. But it was communication. Afterwards, we started dancing and we were just having the ball of our life. Put it that way. But it was just to have that peace of mind and that safe space.
You need the peer support and you need the safe space.
To speak to your mate.
Yes.
About something.
Yes.
You know how cool that feels? But also, Misty, like we had to go through that stage in our life to get to
110%. And that's the thing that I think when you're going through it, you can't see what's on the other side of it.
You cannot. It's impossible.
It's so hard. You just have to have some like blind faith that somehow if you take the steps, right, that you will start to come out of it. So
you got to be futuristic.
And that's hard to do when you feel like you're being swallowed in the moment, right?
But I'll tell you something. And this is really cool. I've used this with my clients, with my kids, with everybody. I'm like, there's something in your life before that you were extra successful.
Mm-hmm.
Extra. How did that happen? Like for my son. My son loves to read. At the beginning, it was very, very hard for him to read. Mm-hmm. We put him in, learning, reading, and he's good at it. So once he does things, and he's like, I can't get it. I'm like, Papi, just continue to do what you know to do. Just continue to try.
Right.
Because you have been successful in karate, you've been successful in here, you've been successful there. I know you're angry right now because you cannot achieve that goal right away.
Right.
But if you keep on going, so there's things that you've been successful, like a cheerleader, an athlete.
Right.
You went to practice, you took coaching.
Right.
You had extracurricular activities. You did so many other things, and if you do that, you'll be okay. Because you also have a pattern of good things. So when you're so dark, it's okay. How was I able to get out of this hole before?
Right. It's not because it's not that challenges stop in your life, right? They don't stop. And so
curveballs are going to keep on coming.
They're going to keep on coming. There was this talk that the I think is Duke's women's basketball coach.
Uh-huh.
They have it on their Instagram. I reshared it last week in a story, but she was talking about learn how to do hard better, because challenges are never going to stop in your life. So if you can learn how to manage those and learn what your trigger points are, right? And learn about yourself, that inner deep knowing, and that gives you so much clarity.
But the most difficult thing in therapy, and this is why I've spoken to people, because I'm so proud, and wherever I go, I tell them, I go to therapy. This has helped us out. My wife, we actually have couples therapy as well. That her and I check in. We have somebody that's
awesome,
non-biased. It's great. It's helped us out so much. But the reason why a lot of people don't go to therapy is because at that time there's a scar, right?
Right.
You have to open up that scar again.
Yeah.
You have to go back again to feel that pain again.
Painful.
So now, are you a masochist? So people say, oh, I don't want to feel that pain again because I don't want to be a masochist. No, because if you don't open that again, it will never heal properly.
It won't. You're going to continue to carry that with you the rest of your life. When you have the option to be more at peace, when you have the option to be more clear, when you have the option to be more free.
And sometimes we don't want to open up, like for me, right? Like opening up those scars meant that I had to be angry at certain people in my life that are very close to me.
Right.
Right. And also be angry, but also forgive them.
Right.
As well. Because if you're not angry again, you won't be able to forgive them. You won't be able to move forward, Misty. You always will carry that gigantic weight. Yeah. And it's only going to tear you down. It's only going to continue to blemish you because
it controls you, right? So the other people are still in a way controlling you because you're allowing that anger to impact your life. You think you're in control, but actually when you're still carrying around that anger, you're still letting that situation and that person control you.
And then the real Misty or the real Chris will never be able to come out. Right. Because we're so fearful, we're so scared, we're so tainted, and then we continue to hurt other people. And it's a gigantic domino effect. And then now that person is going to go hurt someone else. And then, like, I have kids, Misty. It's like, if I cannot get better,
right?
How can my kids be better?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because there's a lot of talk about generational trauma and generational healing. And a lot of that comes from, that's like a whole other topic. But I think that's awesome because it allows you to raise better children who, not that they won't have challenges, but they'll understand, okay, just like you said with your son, this was hard. I know I got through it. So let me just continue to take the steps. And I know I got through this too. That's reassuring.
And how do you do that? My son's 13 years of age.
Right.
I go and have lunch and dinner, just him and I.
Mm-hmm.
I go and have lunch and dinner just with my little 9-year-old daughter. What's going on?
Right.
What can you talk to me about? What do you want to ask? You got to be, like we started this with saying about where's the mentors? But what about us as mentors?
Yeah. Yeah. But once you heal, you're able to do that, right? If you don't heal, you're a terrible mentor.
You're a terrible
aren't
mentor.
You?
Yes, of course, because you could be a good mentor, bad mentor. You could actually start putting poison.
Yeah. Yeah. Because now you're sharing how your view of the world, your anger, your this, and your kids are learning that from you. And so I think that these are all, I mean, God, we could just talk about this. I know it's been about like 30 minutes already.
That's it already?
Our conversation has really flown by, but I want to, I want to thank you for sharing all that because again, that vulnerability. I think being a leader for your team, for your industry, for everybody that you work with, sitting in that chair and sharing this is what's allowing you to do that. And we know that you do credit repair and financial literacy, and you work with people on that piece of their life. And then you say it often that it's a dream killer. It can be a dream killer.
Yeah, I had a client. This was actually great. And if I can say this story.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got referred to her by her business banker. Extremely successful lady. So we do the Zoom meeting, and it was her and her husband. And she didn't have bad credit. She just needed a couple of points just to get her to that 740 where she needed to be at, because she was buying a building. But as I look at the credit report, I'm like, why do you have so many credit cards open, and why do you have so much debt? She's like, no, but I paid those things off. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're putting so much debt here that if you don't pay it off at the right time, your credit score will never be at its highest point.
Right.
So the husband goes to me in the Zoom. He goes, she has a thing for shoes. She goes, but it's crazy.
Yeah.
She goes every week to buy $1,500 pairs of shoes, $2,000, $3,000 pair of shoes, like crazy amount of money for shoes. And he goes, she has a gigantic walk-in closet, just everything shoes. And I told her, I'm like, why do you do that? She broke down and cried right there.
Really?
She goes, Chris, when I was small, I only had one pair of shoes. And my parents were so poor that there was a point that my shoes had big holes that I can feel the heat of the pavement.
Oh my God.
So now that I'm successful, I don't want to relive that.
Right.
And I told her, I'm like, you know what? I can feel that, and I can feel you, and this is the way for you to cope, right? But it's not the right way, because right now, what we're doing right now, we're not preparing you to buy shoes.
Right.
You're preparing to buy a $6 million building.
Right.
So now you overgrew that.
Right. That was a beautiful way to say that.
Yep. And it literally changed her aspect. I'm like, we're not here to buy a shoe. Now we're going to buy a building for your company.
Right.
You grew that.
Right.
So look at
there's some healing that took place there.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
But it's also to understand that, right? Because for me, like coming from Nicaragua, being poor, being laughed at, like I only had one nice shirt to go out. And when we used to go with the kids to movies on Fridays or Saturdays, they'll tell me, it's like, why do you wear the same shirt? I was like, what do you mean? This shirt is cool.
Right.
But it's always the same shirt. I didn't understand, like, I was that poor until people
were pointing it out to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was crazy. For me, I was so proud. I was like, okay, cool. Like, the Sunday's best.
Well, you hear that from, that's funny, because I know we have to wrap up, but I know, like, you also work with very successful people, very highly successful. You think people, they need credit repair, that these are people that are like, not making, you work with highly successful people that run into this problem. And you even work with pro athletes. And I think that's a very common thread of growing up and not having your basic needs met. And now, or for other reasons, but you feel like, you want to enjoy that because you didn't have that before.
It's a FOMO.
Yeah.
It's a FOMO.
Yeah.
Fact. And sometimes it catches on to us. And I tell people, I'm like, you know what? Give yourself that satisfaction. Buy yourself that nice pair of shoes that you want.
Right.
But make sure that pair of shoes that you buy, you're going to wear it a lot. And we're not going to overdo it.
Right.
Because what happens is once you start just digging yourself in a hole, then it becomes really traumatic. Then we go into mental health problems with finances. Then everything now goes back down to a rabbit hole. And we can't get out of it because now we're dragging our families now, Misty.
Right.
So that healing point that you never healed from, now you're bringing down your family because now it's affecting your family, because now the house that you want to purchase, you can't purchase it because you're too much into debt.
Right.
Or your credit got screwed up, or you bought this car and you couldn't pay for it. Now it got repossessed because you were not able to go and seek help. You did not want to.
Right. And I think that's really important. So I wrote an article last year with an ex-NFL player that I interviewed who went through very difficult time. And I shared it again this morning in my newsletter, but he was talking about how he was making more debts than deposits, right? And debts and financial, yes, because he just was like that. He was trying to fulfill a void by just spending money. And this was after he had retired from the sport. And then, but also he was making debts in other ways too, and wasn't making deposits into his soul, into being the human being that he knew he could be, into progressing and getting better. And so I think the way you were just saying, people don't think of it that way, but it certainly happens to a lot of us.
You need to have good friends, Misty. One of the things is having good friends that you can talk to, non-judgmental. Because if you come to me with a topic, with a situation, right, Misty, and you're on bended knees, right?
Right.
I cannot come down with a hammer to hit you.
Right. Well, that's the worst when you go to talk to somebody and they're like, just, why are you whining? Get over it. Like, yeah. That's not the right friend for you, by the way, to go to. You need to know who you can go to for support and who's probably not the best person.
But those good friends will help you.
Yes, they will
Sustain you. You need to make time for them.
Right.
You need to not just use them. You
right.
need to make time for them. You need to continue to have great conversation with your partners.
Right.
And I say this because, one of my friends says, you failed in one marriage. I said, yep, I did. But I'm not going to fail in the second one.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not going to fail because I'm going to continue to do something better. It's because I'm learning how to do things better, because there has to be a North Star mentor that you see and say, man, I want that.
Right.
There's good jealousy and bad jealousy.
Right.
Good jealousy is saying, man, I want what Misty have. I want. How did she do this? Misty,
right.
like, can you teach me? Can you guide me? Bad jealousy is like, I'm going to tear everything down for Misty.
Right.
I heard this great thing. There was two analogies. Like, how can you have the biggest building in the neighborhood? There's only two ways that you can do it.
Right.
One of them is to knock the building, the biggest building down, knock it down. The other one is build a bigger building.
Build your own bigger building.
That's it.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? We're going to knock it down, or
right.
we're going to build one. But when you have great friends, they'll help you.
Right.
They'll help you. They'll listen to you. And you know what? You need a support system, because that's going to be the star, the light in those dark days.
Yeah. And if you're someone out there that wants to support somebody you think is going through a hard time, I think you can just reach out and just say questions like, hey, things seem a little off with you. Are you okay? Right? Like just ask those questions, and maybe they'll feel like talking and maybe they won't, but be consistent in that. And because consistency is how you build a safe space.
Yep.
Right? So
love you, Misty.
I love you. I'm so glad we had this conversation. And I know we went way over than we normally do, and we could definitely continue having this conversation. And I know we will, but I hope that we will be able to bring more of this to you guys with more mental health conversations and talking more about these topics that really we tend to focus a lot on business and a lot on progress, but those things can't happen when the inner part of you is off balance.
Yes.
It'll stop you in your tracks. Right. So thank you guys for being here today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Misty.
I appreciate you being here and for sharing everything that you shared. We need more of your light in this world. So please continue to shine.
And there's a lot of great people in the world. There's a lot of great people in the world. We just have to be open to receiving them.
Yes, that's
true. You have to be open to receiving that great light.
Yeah, you look for negativity, you're going to find negativity. You look for, you're right.
But let's be open to it.
But let's be open to that. And let's be that for each other.
Yep. Right? Pick up the phone, send a text, don't ignore. And it's not only when things are good that you should be there for someone. When things are going wrong or when someone needs help,
right?
Pick up the phone, send a text, send an email. Right. That's a person also asking you, The top is always lonely, Misty.
Yes.
Because no one brings you up.
Right.
No one sends the elevator back down.
Right.
People forget how they got up there.
Yeah.
And that's messed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's messed up.
It happens, but eventually the elevator is going to come down because that's just the way life.
Just send it down and go and pick up people.
Yeah, and pick up people. Help them out.
Help them out.
Help them out. You're really big on that. You're really, really big on that.
I love to do that.
I know that you've had endless conversations with me and others. Just for the sake of doing that.
I love to help out my people. It makes me so happy. This is why when you reach out, I'm like, all right, Misty, it's a Monday. You know how my Mondays are crazy.
His Mondays are crazy. So he really had to take a lot of effort to be here. So I don't want to keep up too much of your time, but thank you guys so much. Let us know what you think in the comments. And if there's a topic that you want us to address, If you want us to talk more about mental health and marketing, I mean, we can certainly do that. I'm more than happy. Obviously and clearly, it's a passion and something close to us. So thank you again for being here. And I hope you guys have a beautiful day, and we will see you all real soon. Make it a good one.